This conference will now be recorded.
Yes. Anyone, any questions that I can take till here? Anyone, any questions? Any questions, guys? Anyone, any questions, any clarifications that I need to give?
Good morning,
Good
Ranjit
morning.
here.
Good, please. Good.
I just want to understand what is the telemetry in the application inside.
Sorry, can you come again? What is the
Telemetry.
telemetry? Nothing but logs. So telemetry are logs.
But
That's it. Hmm?
okay. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Any more questions, guys? Okay. So this is what we have right now. So what we are doing is that, see, we created an application or a web app. So let's forget that we have a SQL server in the background. Let's forget we have a SQL for a second. Let's say that we have an application, sorry, we have an app service, and then we have an app service plan, right? On one plan, you can have multiple app services running, provided both the app service and the app service plan are in the same region. That's the underlying, or that's, let's say, the thumb rule. So this particular app service is running on an underlying app service plan. And now I am telling that the app service plan is nothing but a backend running virtual machine. And yesterday we also have seen that we have an option to add multiple virtual machines in the background, meaning one plan can have multiple instances of virtual machine that are running in the background. So let's say that you have two instances of the virtual machine running in the background. So you are preparing all your infrastructure. You have two virtual machines running in the background, and Azure load balances your number of requests to the backend running VMs. You do not have to, let's say, configure a load balancer. You do not have to do all these things. So this is good enough for me, which load balances out here and etc. And finally, as a developer, I go ahead and deploy my code here. Some code can be a simple HTML page also, a simple HTML page or a complex Python page application, whatever it is. Now, you as a user, if you are coming from your laptop, so this is you as a user, you are hitting some website called www dot something. I'm just putting a star here dot azurewebsites.net. Right. So what is happening right now is that, as in when you hit this, it's going to the backend running app service. The app service is going to the app service plan. The app service plan in the background is going ahead, and you have actual running virtual machines that is there in the background, which you cannot see. You do not have access, nothing. It's a platform managed service. So your requests are getting diverted out here. Now you put two instances. It's being load balanced. So what is happening is that in this setup, even if you have multiple users coming into your application in the same minute, your application is still able to accommodate those, let's say, load. Your application is still able to, let's say, accommodate that particular load. But let's say that I now give you one more scenario wherein I'm telling that this particular application is running from something like ECS2. Now, in the background, right, when I'm telling virtual machines, these virtual machines are nothing but softwares that are running on actual physical servers in that particular data center. So when you create an app service in ECS2, it will create a backend running virtual machines which are nothing but running out of an actual physical server in that particular data center. So let us go ahead and save server. It's nothing but an actual physical server which is in that particular data center. That's it. These machines are just allocated on this particular server. In the background, it's nothing but a server, a physical server out here. Now, my question to Microsoft is that, you know what, Microsoft, what if this particular data center is down, or this particular server is itself down? The server that is running in ECS2, because of overheating issues, or because of, let's say, power outages, floods, whatever it is. Let's say the server is itself down. The server is down. The machines that are running on the server, even they are down. If this is down, app service is down, or app service plan is down. If that is down, app service plan is down. And if the app service is down, your website is also down, which means that you'll simply get an error telling that your website is you're trying to reach is not reachable. A lot of errors in it. 404, 403 is a lot of things. 500 errors, a lot of things that you are going to get out here. My question is that how would you make sure now? Until now, we have been talking about scalability. We said how can your website scale up or scale down? How can your website accommodate the additional load? All these comes under scalability. Now I am talking about availability and DR scenarios, disaster recovery. And DR, disaster recovery, meaning in case your primary endpoint is down, we call them as endpoints or we call them as servers, anything that you can call. In case your primary endpoint called something.azurewebsites.net, if it is down, then how do you make sure that your application is still running? Because for me as a user, I am not worried or I am not concerned really about whether your server is down or whether what is down and etc. I simply want your website to be working. That's it. I, as a user, if I come to your website, it should be functional. That's the only thing. If it's not, then I'll go to some other website and get my business done. I don't want to wait for your servers to come back online and all that stuff. In this case, what shall we do then? In order to, let's say, talk about the concept called availability and disaster recovery, what do you think we should do? Availability set. But again, what do you add in an availability set? Mhm. Right, but my question here is that when you create an availability set, what do you add inside an availability set or the virtual machines? But do you have a control on the backend running virtual machine? No. So we are not even creating virtual machines out here. So you cannot add. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. It's not add. You have to add something. Yes. What is that something? That's what I want to, let's say, look at. Because right now, the only thing that you have control on is this. You don't have a control on the app service plan, neither the backend running virtual machines or the physical server per se. But even to your point, even if I add the availability set is not an answer for me if my entire data center is going down. Because availability set is a concept within the data center out there. It's like LRS. So it's not really, let's say, helpful if the entire data center goes down. Yes. Anyone else? Anything else? Anything that we can think about for this particular case scenario on what will happen if that particular EC2 server is going down? Anyone online? Anyone who wants to add inputs here? Mm, okay, good, great point. Yes, I'll tell you that yes, that's correct. What if I create one more app service in a different region? Because here, in order to avoid the regional unavailability, I'll create the same app service in something called as North Europe or any region, Central US, East US, North Europe, Central India, whatever it is. It should be like exact replica app service, yes. Meaning whatever code is running here, the same code will be on this app service also. And this is called as my secondary endpoint or a DR region, disaster recovery region. So what it can do is, again, since this is another region, I also need an app service plan because it should be a new app service plan. Again, let's put the backend instances also. So I have the backend instances and I also have the server, the physical server I'm talking about in the background, which is running out of a data center that is situated out of, let's say, a region called North Europe. So these two servers might be running from this particular server, or might be running from multiple servers out of this particular data center out here as such. And this has its own website address. This will have something like www.northeurope.azurewebsites.net. I'm just giving you an example as NEU. This can be something like eastus.azurewebsites.net out here as such. So now you have exact replica running on two different regions. Now my question is, for the user, what is the website link that you would give? Is it the East US website or is it the North Europe website? Okay, meaning this is the eastus.azurewebsites.net. This is the North Europe.azurewebsites.net. Both are running but different regions. For this user, what was the let's say link that you will provide? Yes, good, please. What is the link that you will provide? Is it East US link or is it North Europe link right now? Exactly the same link, as in, is it this particular website or this website? East US 2. So if you give this website to him, mhm. Okay, but in this case, right, if I go to this particular link, I'll only and only be going to, sorry, the URL is different. Yes, both the URLs are different. So if you give this URL, it will only go to this website only. It won't go, never, it won't go to this particular website. So then what can we do? I have two websites right now, that is East US and North Europe. Same copy, same code, everything is the same. Now, which link do you all think should we give here to the actual user? Yes, anyone? What do you all think we should do here?
Can we create a same link for both?
Can we create a same link for both? Yes, a good idea. But if I create even a same link for both, how will that link know whether it should go to East US2 or North Europe? How will it even know that I should divert my traffic either to East US or North Europe? What did we do in the virtual machines if we had the same issue? What did we discuss in the virtual machines? So we created two virtual machines. We said, okay, fine. We need some device. What was that device? What did we
Load
discuss about?
balancer.
Load balancer. Something like a load balancer, because a load balancer can only add virtual machines in the background. Something like a load balancer. That's where I am getting in something called as a traffic manager. Traffic manager out here. So what I'll do is that now let's see how my architecture really looks like. My traffic manager, I'll create something called as a traffic manager. I will attach it, or I'll attach all the or both these servers to my traffic manager. Traffic manager will have its own link. It's called www dot something dot trafficmanagers.net. Some link out here, and I as a user will hit this particular traffic manager. Now this traffic manager, depending upon some rules which we configure, will go ahead and divert the traffic to the available, let's say, web apps that are running in the background. Again, these rules is something that we configure. So we'll look at this entire setup. But firstly, in order to, let's say, create all these things, right? The very first thing that I need is, for this particular demo, is two web apps. One in East US, or one in, or let's say, in two different regions. So in my case, I'll say one is in East US 2 and the other is in North Europe. After that, I'll create something called as a traffic manager and define the rules of the traffic manager. Again, if you all remember, right, when we create a load balancer, we created something called as the front end IP address, backend pools, health probe, and then you had load balancing rules. You had all these things. In a similar way, what I'll do, firstly, let me start with this. Let us first create this particular architecture. So let's go back into our home page and let's say app services. And yes, I'll create a new app service today. I will say create new. I'll say East US2 RG, something like this. Let's say this is East US2 server 000 dot Azure websites.net. So any name that is unique. I'll say code here is .NET 3.1. This is a sample code that I'm taking. I'll say this is East US2. I'll say plan here is something called as East US plan. Sorry, yes, please. Yes. I'll say East US plan. I'll say okay. Since we all are, let's say, working on a free trail, I'll start with free. F1. Deployment again, I'll say I'll just disable everything. Networking also I'll disable. Monitoring also I'll disable for now. But you can, as yesterday we were discussing, right? If you want to enable application insights, you can directly enable it from here. You don't have to create and attach it. You can directly enable it from here. For now, I'll say no. I'll say review and create. And I'm now creating an app service that is there in ECS code, please. Because it'll reduce the amount of time that I'll take to create all these things. That's it. But you can enable and create. This is not a problem. So I'm now creating just two simple resources, one being the app service, one being the other being the app service plan. And this is something that I'm creating in ECS. So it will become ECS2 server 000.azurewebsites.net. So let's wait for this one to let's say deploy, and let's wait for this app service to be created. And once the app service is created, I'll put some sample code on the app service. So how do I again deploy a code on the app service, guys? What do we do to do? I mean, what do we do to deploy the code on the app service? Anyone? I have a code. I want to deploy that code onto the app service. What should I do? How do we deploy it? We use Visual Studio or we use WinSCP directly to go ahead and let's say deploy this out. Now, one more thing that I want to let's say introduce right now is that see, right now for this particular demo, I simply want a very simple HTML page. That's it. By default, Microsoft is already giving me a HTML page. This is actually good enough. But when I have multiple servers, right, I just want to understand where the server is running from. Is it North Europe or is it East US? What exactly it is? For which, what I'll do is I don't want to again go to Visual Studio, load the entire software and etc. If I just scroll down here, there is something called as an app service editor. Let's go there. This will open up the direct www root folder for you, and it will show you what is there in the background. So you don't have to download the WinSCP software. You don't have to do that. If you have very simple changes or very simple thing to edit, you can just come here in the background and edit it out. So for example, if you see this, right, it's saying www root. I have something called hostingstart.html file. This is all the HTML document that Microsoft is giving me, because of which this entire website is actually running. So what I'll do, I'll come here, I'll say Control A, delete everything, and I'll put my own HTML page. I'll say H1, I'll say hello from app service, and I'll give the region, telling it is East US 2, something like this. I'll close this particular HTML. So for very simple edit, right, this is good enough. Okay, this is save. I'll just go ahead restart my web app once. So whenever you do some change, right, please go ahead restart your web app. So this is done, and once restarted, right, let's go to our page. Let's reload this. Hello from app service east2. So this is for my demo. I just put some HTML page. In the place of this particular HTML page, you can have any code. You can have Java, you can Python, you can have Python, Java, .NET, Ruby, Golang, whatever can be. Meaning, in place of this particular simple line, you can have an actual website. Like think about irctc.com, or think about uber.com, ola.com, whatever is it that you can think about can be replaced by this one entire, let's say, the single line can be replaced by enter that particular website in a real-time environment. That's what we do. But for our demonstration to understand how is it, I'm just putting a simple HTML page out here. So this was the first app service that I created with this particular URL right now, which is https east2 server 000.azurewebsites.net out here. In a similar way, I'll also have to create the North Europe app service. So what I'll have to do is that I'll have to same thing, add the app service, say that the plan is again F1 in a region called North Europe, and I'll have to do the same thing. Now, in the best interest of time, I already created it. Whatever I did right now, I already created this out. So if you look at my resource groups, right, I have East US2, I have North Europe. In North Europe also, I have a similar setup, North Europe app service. And if I just, I also gone into the app service editor, edited the page out. And if I go in there, hello from server North Europe, same thing. I just went there, I edited it, I just put it there out there as such. So I have these two app services that I let's say have created. Code is also there, everything is ready. But again, in order to make sure that I properly have a disaster recovery plan, I will now go ahead and search for traffic manager profiles. Let's go there. Again, it's telling an Azure Traffic Manager is a DNS based traffic load balancer. This will allow you to distribute your traffic to your public facing applications across the globe. Load balancer is a regional device. Traffic manager is a global device out here as such. It's a global traffic, it's a global load balancing service. I'll say create the traffic manager profile. I'll click on this one. And here it's asking me for the name of the traffic manager. I'll say it is, yes, the name should be unique. So I'll say demo TM, something like this. Let's see, again, it's telling the name is not unique. I'll say demo TM 1000. Some unique name, some random name. And as and when I give the name, if you see it's demo TM 1000 dot trafficmanager.net. It's having its own URL. Very, very important, guys. When you create a traffic manager, it's important to define what is the routing methodology. Nothing but the rules. The rules in which you want to, let's say, configure this out. For now, I'll take the default rule called performance. We'll create it and we'll understand what performance really means out here as such. Again, if you see, do you anywhere see an area to define the location of the traffic manager? Do you see anywhere that you can define the location of the traffic manager? This is what? Resource group location. But do you see any field where it's asking you for traffic manager location? No. It's a global resource. This doesn't have a, let's say, a location out here. So I'll say this is the resource group location. I'll say this is some random resource group called traffic manager RG. Say okay. Any location, I'm good with this. I'll say create. As simple as it is. Just give the name. Very importantly, the routing method. We'll talk about the routing method. We'll have about 5 or 6 routing methods out here called performance, priority, weighted, geographic, multi-value, and subnet. There are about 6 routing methods that you have here. So we'll talk about those. We'll understand how it really works out, and what is the mechanism in which it works out, and etc. And where do you create performance versus priority, or and so on and so forth. So let's look at that. Again, that depends upon the scenario that you want to produce. So we'll talk about it. We'll see how or what kind of a method that you want to, let's say, implement out here. Good, please. Yes, we get the data from a load balancer, but where is the load balancer here? It's a traffic manager, right? So it's a traffic manager. Traffic manager is nothing but a device. It doesn't have your actual data. It's a device which will help you route your request either to one of the app services out here. We'll see that. We'll see how actually the traffic manager really works. We'll understand those things out there. So let's come here. Very firstly, I have created the traffic manager, but I did not attach my app services to the traffic manager. This is something that I did not do. For which, what I'll do is I'll scroll down under the settings of the traffic manager. There is something called endpoints. Let's go to the endpoints. Let's say add. It's now telling what kind of an endpoint you have. Is it Azure? Is it external? Is it nested? Which means that it can be an app service or a virtual machine that is running in Azure. If you say external, right, it can be an app service or a virtual machine that is running in any other cloud like Amazon Web Services, GCP, on-premise environments, anything. Traffic Manager is universal. It doesn't really have. It doesn't really need your services to be hosted in Azure. You can, let's say, have services hosted in different clouds also. Nested endpoints, we'll talk about what is nested. We'll see firstly the concept and then go to nested out there. I'll say Azure endpoint because I have app services running in Azure. I'll say endpoint one. I'll just give a name to this endpoint called endpoint one. Can be any name, not a problem. It's now telling what is the target resource type, meaning where do you want to divert your traffic. And in the drop down, I have something called what? App service. I'll say app service. It's now telling choose your app service. Is it North Europe app service? Is it East US app service? Is it something else? I'll say East US app service. I'll say add. So I'm now adding my East US app service in here. Selling, okay, fine. I'm checking the endpoint again. I did not configure the health probes, nothing. It's all taken care by the platform right now. I'll say add again. I'll say Azure endpoint. I'll say endpoint. So I'll say endpoint to say app service again. And I'll go ahead and say just North Europe app service. So okay, not this one. Okay, fine. Okay, I ended up creating North Europe app service also in East US. Is it? Let's see. North Europe RC, North Europe app service. Fine. Did I also create the same thing in? Let's see. Okay, I should have created it in some different region. Even I created this one in ECS. So now I don't have an option to change, let's say this one, but let's see. I don't think it'll allow me to save this. Let's see. Both are added in ECS. So let me do one thing. Let me delete this out. Let me quickly create a new app service in North Europe and let's say add that out also because it'll be helpful to understand how the traffic manager really works. So let's go ahead and create a new app service. I'll say North Europe RG. This time around I'll say this is test North Europe app service, something like this. Azure websites.net. Say .NET 3.1. I'll say the region is North Europe. Name of the plan is something like new. I'll say sample plan. Change size. I'll put this to F1. In North Europe, let's see. Deployments, monitoring, everything. I'll disable this out right now. And once this is disabled, I'll just go ahead and review and create this out. So now it is North Europe, something like this. App service name, Windows North Europe. That's good enough. Check create this out. So I didn't check what's the region while I was creating it out. So I cannot now migrate the region. So that's the reason I'm recreating something out here. And once I recreate it, right, now I won't edit the app service. The HTML page can be okay, or you can simply go ahead and edit it out. It will take just a second to go ahead and edit it out. So let's do that also. So give it like a second and we'll wait for this to load. And what I'm going to do is that after the North Europe app service is added, I'll add that in the endpoint 2 as well. So I'll just go ahead and say endpoint 2 and I'll add it out. So let's wait for a second. And once this is created, I'll go ahead and edit the app service one real quick second. In a quick minute, I'll go ahead and edit it out. And once I edit it, so let's go to the resource. Now, not this North Europe is now added, and in here I have, let's say it's running its North Europe location right now, and just scroll down. I have the app service editor. I'll just go to the app service editor, edit it out, so that I have a sample HTML page where I can write hello from North Europe or something like that. So let's go ahead and do that. And once I've done that, parallelly I'll just go ahead and add this out. I'll say Azure endpoint, I'll say name endpoint 2, I'll say app service, I'll say this is now the North Europe app service out here, and I'll say add. And while that is being added, I'll just go ahead, remove this out, which one, something like this, and I'll say this is North Europe app service, something like this. And this is saved, done. We'll restart this particular application. So let me restart this out. And here, both the endpoints have been added. In the traffic manager, I have added both the endpoints. Now, for you as a user, I won't give this website name, or I won't give this website name. Rather, I will give you this particular name out here called www dot that some name dot traffic manager dot net out here. This is the URL. http demo traffic manager dot net, something like this. So send across this particular link to you all in the online chat and in the online class. Let's see what you get here. Everyone just go to that link. Just say enter. Let's see what we get. Okay. 404 website not found. But we did everything right, isn't it? The app service is running. Both the app services are running. Both East-US and North Europe are really running out here. But still, I'm not getting this particular, let's say, website that's coming up. The other day we got a 403 forbidden error. Today we are getting 404, which is website not found. Is anyone online also getting the same error, or are you unable to see the actual page?
We are getting the 404 error.
Getting this 404 error. So why are we getting this particular 404 error? What do you feel is the error here, or what do you feel is, let's say, the issue here? Any random guesses? Sorry, network. I do not configure any network out here. Again, it's a public facing app service out here. Custom domain not configured. Where do you feel that the custom domain is there? Custom domain is not configured. Where is the custom domain? Did we see this anywhere? Custom domain. Application insights. Did we see that in application insights called custom domains? Or where did we see something called as custom domains? Where did we see
App
that? Let's
service.
app
App
service,
service.
exactly. App service, something called as custom domains. By going to custom domains, again, saying click here to let's say upgrade your app service to assign a custom domain. This is not the actual issue. Let's go into the plan. Let's go into our plan and see what our plan really tells here. I'll just scale up the plan to understand what are the features of this particular plan. Let's see one thing. This is F1 and it supports what? Just the hardware, memory and storage. Let's go to production S1. Do you see something called traffic manager here? Your app service plan should also support traffic managers, which means that the app service plan should support traffic managers and also the custom domains, both of them. So I will scale it up. I'll scale my plan up. Same thing I'll do for the North Europe app service also. I'll put it to S1. So the traffic management is actually supported out here. So I'll go to, let's say, North Europe. I'll go to the plan here and I'll perform a scale up operation. F1 really doesn't support all the features. F1 won't come with all the features. So that's the reason you'll have to understand if you get such a kind of errors, right? You'll have to go to your plan and understand whether your plan really supports it. And here I'll just go and say this is S1 and I'll apply this out. So now I have two different app services. The plans are also scaled up. So let me wait for a minute. Now even East US is done. North Europe is also done. So I can close these tabs. Now let's see. I'll try to refresh my screen. Still I'm getting the same error because my browser cache and all these things will be impacting, let's say, this particular, let's say, load out here. It'll take some time initially for this particular, let's say, thing to get loaded. Let's just give it like a minute or so. And parallelly, guys online, you all also can try this out. You go to an incognito window and try this out. Same thing. Let's wait for a second. Let's see. Endpoint status is still degraded. It should come up in a second. Let's see. So let's give it a minute. And guys, in the online class, is anyone getting, let's say, the same? Is everyone getting the same error, or does anyone getting a different thing year out here as such? Let's see the app
Same
services
404.
404 error. Let's check this out. Let's see why is it a 404 error. And this is the app service which is running an S1 plan. Let's look at the custom domains. Should have added a custom domain by now. Yes, the custom domain is added, so this is good enough. And let's go to North Europe as well, and let's see what plan this is running on right now. This is also S1 one instance. This is, let's say, custom domains, and for some odd reason, I got what the issue is. I scaled up the wrong plan. Let me go ahead and scale this one out too. And let's wait for a second. So the sample plan, right, that is running in North Europe. So we did not scale this up. I accidentally scaled the other one. So let's go ahead and scale this out too. I'll go to production, say S1, I'll say apply this up. So let me apply this out. Let's wait for a minute after this is applied. Both plans should support traffic manager. Though both plans don't have to be same, they should support traffic manager. So let me do this. Now let's go into our traffic manager right now. And it still says these are degraded. So let's give it a second. So once you update your plans, just give traffic manager a minute or so to do the updates in the background. So if you now go into the app services called test app service North Europe, and this should also be in S1 category. It's an S1. After that, I have custom domains here, and inside which I see a traffic manager that got added out here as such. So just give it like a minute, and let's look at this one. Now let's copy the traffic manager URL and let's try this out. Let's go into our browser, and I'll say advanced. Continue to this one. Getting what? This North Europe app service. Is everyone online also getting the same thing? Telling North Europe app service out here? Yes? No? Maybe? Can anyone online please confirm? Same error. Please, let's say refresh your cache or try it in a different browser.
Ye- Yes, I got it.
North Europe. But why
Yeah.
not East US? Why is it not getting from East US
Yes,
out here? Why are we not getting East US? Again, let me go here. Open up a PowerShell, okay? This PowerShell, I'll just run a command called resolve hyphen DNS name hyphen name. I'll just give the name of that particular DN or that particular traffic manager. I'll say enter. Do you see what is happening? As in when you enter, it is telling demo TM something, points to what? Test North Europe. This is what? Our North Europe website. And it is telling me, okay, fine, this website has a URL or this website has an IP or something like this, which means that if I am a user who's coming from my laptop, this traffic manager is taking my request. It's firstly taking this request. So if you see this, right? Firstly, I'm hitting the traffic manager. From there, where is it diverting me to? North Europe. So it's taking all my requests, diverting me to North Europe, then taking me to the backend, let's say running virtual machine out here. That's what is happening. Even if you look at my PowerShell, PowerShell is mostly it's elaborative. It's telling how your traffic is getting diverted. From here, the next stop is this one. From that particular next stop, it's going internally with a different name called www something like this, and that internal name is getting resolved to this particular public IP address that is running in the background. All these mapping is taken care by Azure, but very importantly, the question here is that why only North Europe? Why not East US? Again, the answer here is the routing method, is the routing rule out here. Let's look at it. Let's say traffic manager routing methods Azure. Now, traffic manager supports all these routing methodologies: priority, weighted, performance, geographic, multi-value, and subnet. Let's see. In something called as performance, what is it telling you? Select performance routing when you have endpoints in different geographic location and you want the end user to use the closest endpoint for lowest network latency. What does it mean? Let's go there. This is what it means out here right now. It's telling me very simple. If you configure a traffic manager in performance routing methodology, if you have two different servers, East US2 and North Europe, and you are a user, I'm a user coming from India, right? If I'm interacting with the traffic manager right now, the traffic manager will simply say, okay, fine. What is the distance between you and East US2? What is the distance between you and North Europe? What is the closest distance? North Europe website is usually, let's say, running from, let's say, Ireland or something like that. East US2 is Virginia. See, we as a user in India, we are close to North Europe than to East US. Geographical distance. That's what it's doing. It's calculating the latency. That's what it is telling you. It's telling, okay, fine. This is the IP range. This is your IP address, example IP address. How how far is North Europe? How far is East Asia? How far is West US? And what is the server which is available? For example, let's say if the North Europe server is down, your request will automatically go into East US2 out here. So I'm not doing anything if it is down. So that's the reason. Firstly, it's based on the distance, or it's based on the performance, which means that this is what it is telling you. The closest endpoint isn't necessarily closest as measured by the geographical distance. Instead, performance routing methodology determines the closest endpoint by measuring network latency, meaning how fast is your server. For example, in a given day, let's say North Europe has some natural calamities. Servers are down, servers are very slow. Then your traffic will automatically go into East US. The reason being, East US will be best performing service out there as such. So now that's the reason I am getting all my requests served from what? North Europe out here. And in case North Europe is down, let's also create a disaster. In case I say North Europe is down, so I'll go into the test North Europe out here. I'll just stop this out. I'll just stopping this particular website. So this website is what? Stopped out here right now. Now let's see. Again, see, for your browser to identify that the website is down, it will take some time. It'll take like a minute or so for the cache to clear away. But let's go into, let's say, our PowerShell, and let's again rerun the same command. Do you see where my traffic is going to? East US right now. Traffic manager automatically switched your endpoint to East US out here. But if I take this out, right, if I just go back into our traffic manager right now and just refresh this. Now see, where am I getting the request from? East US disaster recovery, meaning it's now calculating the distance between me and North Europe. It says, okay, fine. Actually, North Europe is very closest to me, but it said, you know what? North Europe is what? Down. North Europe is down. So I'll divert your request to the next available endpoint, which is what? East US out here. That is what priority. Sorry, that is what performance means. You have one more thing called what? Priority. These are the two most used, let's say, and routing methods. Priority is telling that you can give a rank to your endpoints, first, second, third, fourth, and etc. For example, if I go there, how do I change it? In the traffic manager, under the settings, there's something called what? Configuration. In the configuration, what is the routing method? I can change it to priority save. I'm changing my routings to, let's say, priority out here. And as and when I change this, right? Let's see what happens. And also what will happen, or also what I'll do is I'll go ahead and enable my North Europe endpoint. I'll start this out once again. Again, it will take like a minute or two for this particular app service to come online. But now the priority, or now the, let's say, routing methodology is what? Priority method. Let's come back into the traffic manager and let's see what happened to the endpoints. Now, do you see there is something called priority that got assigned? Endpoint 1 and endpoint 2 have something called what? Priority, meaning rank. In this case, your traffic will always and always go to East US2, which is the priority 1. Lesser the priority, greater is the weightage. Which means that no matter what I do here, if I go here and try to, let's say, do the resolution, East US only, even though North Europe is up. Now North Europe is up for us, right? It will still go to East US only out here. If you see this, what? East US. So no matter how many times you refresh this out, your traffic will always and always come from East US too. But if I change the priority, let's say I'll go into endpoint 1. How do I change it? If I go to endpoint 1, click here. Here I have what? Priority 1 and I have priority 2. I'll put this as 3. So North Europe will become the least priority, which is 2, which means the greater preference. Lesser is the priority, greater is the preference out here. So now I'm changing the priority. I'm altering the priority. Now do you see 2 and 3? 2 is the least priority and that came up right away. And let's go into our, let's say, PowerShell. Earlier it was what? East US. It's still East US. It'll take some time to refresh into going to North Europe out here. You see what is happening right now? North Europe. Did I change anything? No. But traffic manager automatically understood that, you know what, now you are going into a priority routing methodology, but your browser cache will impact. So you can refresh your cache, you can delete your cache and then try again, which will now divert your traffic back to, let's say, something like a North Europe out here as such. So let me copy this out. North Europe app service. If the North Europe is down, the traffic will automatically go into East US, the next available priority out here as such. So as a website or as a company, we go ahead, create multiple app services, give it multiple priorities. We say first priority will go to North Europe because maybe all my customers are based out of North Europe. I want them to, let's say, go to North Europe out here. If it fails, I want them to go to a different region called East US or something like this. Yes, any questions still here? Priority comes from ascending to descending. Yes, it's yes, ascending to descending order. So first it will take the least available number. In my case, 2 and 3. 2 is the least number. 2 is assigned to what? North Europe. You'll say, okay, fine, 2 is assigned to North Europe, so I'll just go to that only every time. That's priority. Performance works in the other way. Performance works based upon the performance and the network latency of your endpoints. That's what your documentation really talks about. So if I go into the documentation, say traffic manager, routing methodology again, this is very, very important, guys. This is something that we have to read. on what is the routing methodology that is offered by traffic managers. And in the class, we have covered performance and priority. I want you all to try geographic and weighted. These are the two things that I want you to try. Multi-value and subnet is very less used. They are not even probably used out there. So just go to these things out here called performance. Say what is performance, telling it's deploying two or more endpoints. Then say what is priority. Then say what is weighted, and then geographic, and configure it. And let me know how are they different from priority and performance out here as such. Yes. Good, please. Any number. There is no number out here. There is no number out here. You can have any number of app services. You can have a combination of app services, virtual machines, and external endpoints. And you can have multiple things that are connected to your traffic manager. So shouldn't be a problem at all. Yes, any more questions, guys? Anyone? Any questions till here? Okay, thank you, and that's it from my end. Please look at the different routing methodologies out here. And we do not have a class tomorrow and day after, Saturday and Sunday. From Monday, we will be starting Azure DevOps. We'll be doing the DevOps part of the session. That is going to take me around 15 to 18 classes, just the Azure DevOps. After that, we'll move into Terraforms, Dockers, and Kubernetes. Thank you, guys, and have a good day ahead.